Welcome to the In-Between-Man podcast, where men can be men. And that's true. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're new to our content, welcome. If you have no idea kind of what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're putting this content out in the marketplace, do me a favor. Within the description, there is a playlist titled TIBM Introduction. And that is a 5-part playlist, one video podcast going over our general purpose. And then I answer 4 questions. The who, which would be an introduction to me as your host. The what are we going to be talking about? And I can tell you right now, we're going to be talking about why men are struggling today. The where is all this content going to be available? And the how we're going to leverage all that content and hopefully grow a community of like-minded men that are on a private male-only Discord server. That's the goal, right? That's what I want to try to accomplish. And so if you can watch the introduction and understand kind of what we're doing, I think the content that you'll get subsequently after that might resonate with you more. So you're learning more about me, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to say, hey, I'm not interested in this content. I'm moving on. And that's great. You know, I don't want you to be around listening to videos that aren't interesting to you. And I can live with that, right? So that's why I created the introduction. Go there, check it out, and there you go. So today's podcast is going to be another extreme example that most people in the military who aren't in the military aren't probably going to be able to understand. And the reason why I'm going to the extreme of trying to convey this information to you is that the average everyday person who's not in the military doesn't have to deal with TBI and even CTE, right? Concussion-related blows while they're managing through personal challenges, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever you want to look at, right? And so this first clip that I provide is about 10 minutes long, and I want you to focus in on Marcus himself, okay? And as you listen to him talk to Shawn and answer questions about what his job was at SEAL Team 10 as a breacher and even on a development group, right? Like, he is articulate. He's able to obviously formulate his thoughts. He's intelligent, right? He's obviously in great physical shape. Like, when I look at him, I see someone who is successful right out of the gate, right? Like, I get a good, warm feeling when I listen to him talk, right? Like, almost like in a role model kind of way, right? Like, this guy's got it together. And the reason why I'm pointing that out, and I'll get into this as we get into other clips, is that couldn't be farther from the truth. And what's interesting and different about this video compared to DJ's video is DJ provides an extremely detailed account of what happened to him. And in this video, Marcus's wife, Amber, gives you perspective on just how bad he was. And I thought that was worth sharing. I really did. And I love Amber. I love her for everything that she does for her husband in this video. All right, so that's it. I'm going to jump in here later on, but enjoy the podcast, listen to the playlist, and hang out. There's more to come.
One other thing I want to cover that we just kind of breezed over because is, your job as a breacher.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to cover that a little bit more extensively is because the amount of explosions that you've initiated, I'm sure plays a tremendous part in your downward spiral and getting into the alternative medicine and that kind of stuff. So, you know, you said, you know, you were a breacher at 10 and you guys were going out all the time. You did one DA, it sounded like, but then when you went over to development group, you know, it got a lot busier.
Yeah, I was,
training.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, and I know you have no idea, but if you had an estimate, you know, how many explosives do you think you may have detonated?
I'd say.
We talking thousands?
Yeah, I'd say several hundred to 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be conservative.
Yeah.
Just because of the multiple trips, the training trips, being an RSO, range safety officer. So then, being the safety officer for guys that are, blowing breaching charges and then blowing them myself. It was definitely a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot. Because we're learning, right? Subconcussive blows are actually worse than concussions, full-on concussions. So I think we've all had a lot of those. And again, I always tell people, you never know who it's going to happen to. Some people can.
What did you just say? What's worse than a concussion?
Subconcussive blows.
I did not know that.
So and again, I hope I'm getting this right, but I'm almost positive that the repeated subconcussive blows is what are causing, what is going on right now with the special operations community and why guys are having this quote unquote operator syndrome. What I obviously was experiencing is the constant, charge goes off, blast wave goes through you, charge goes off, blast wave goes through you, minor subconcussive blows, maybe you're not fully knocked out, but your bell's rung, or you eat that charge, or you feel it. Just like in football, when you get your bell rung, that's an impact. These are, blast.
Yeah,
a little bit different, but similar. What they're, what the end result is at the end game, which you're hoping not to get, which is CTE, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
But all these mild TBIs are, they're adding up. The body keeps score. I think there's a book called The Body Keeps Score.
So walk us through like a standard hit on a target as a breacher. How close are you? What are you using?
Sure. So standard target, say I was carrying, multiple breaching charges from, tiny little explosives that could just blow a small lock to, heavy, I'd say, heavy demolition charges that, can blow a reinforced, steel like door on a compound and blow the thing and like cut it in half.
Well, how much is it? C4?
I don't know if I want to get into the
or maybe a haversack would be comparable.
Haversack, you're going to go through a wall.
Yeah.
So if we blew a haversack, we're blown through a wall. So I wish I had the numbers, if I remember the pounds, the poundage. But say we blow a pound charge or half a pound on some of these like, big steel gates.
Yeah.
We were doing that every night.
Yeah.
And then again, if I go back to training, we may be doing that all week, like hundreds of times over.
Yeah.
Right. And in training, we'd always make sure we got the standoff that we needed. There's minimum safe distance. In combat, there was no range safety officer.
Yeah.
Like you are breacher, like you're in charge of making sure everybody gets back. Everybody's out of the way. Nobody's looking at the charge. If you look at the charge, you could eat, something, a bolt, a nut, something that'll basically go through you. But really all we cared about is not seeing the charge. So as long as we could not see it, like we felt like a lot of times we were good. So we would be well inside mean safe distance as long as we're out of the blast zone.
Yeah.
Not getting hit with a piece of frag. So a lot of times we were eating that minimum safe distance. We were well inside that.
Well, like what would a minimum safe distance be?
It's all figured off. It's math. It's easy math. Like, so whatever the charge was, again, this is going to be wrong math, but if it's a pound charge, say I need to be 17 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Again, those numbers are off. But so instead of 17 feet, I'm at like 8.
Yeah.
Right. But there's a reason for that minimum safe distance, because there was, really smart guys, engineers years ago that calculated all this and said, by the way, if you're in this distance, like you're probably going to have brain damage.
Yeah.
Right. So
we won't quote you on the minimum safe distance.
Yeah. I don't know the numbers. Like I said, I've been out of the game for a while, but
yeah,
we knew them at the time. I knew them at the time, of course, and you could just see what your standoff is. But many times we were inside that mean safe distance. So that blast wave, it is really fucking you up. Like
Yeah.
it is jacking you up. And there's sometimes I've had buddies tell me that, hey man, you remember that charge you set off? Remember that, multiple times that where we were in an enclosed area, so like corners and walls, and now that concussive blow is just exasperated.
It's amplified.
2 times, 3 times, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Shattered your teeth, literally. Like, it's crazy, like headaches. And I did a thing recently. We shot like maybe 2-3 years ago. I was doing watching some guys shoot a 50 cal for like 3 hours. Dude, I had such a pounding headache. Like, at the end I said, well, this is obviously why I'm not doing this anymore, But yeah, like I said, as a breacher, you're taking an explosive, you're putting in a spot to make entryway into somewhere. And when that thing goes off, it is rocking your world. It is going right through your brain.
Yeah.
And it's why we're having problems with our endocrine system. Why our hormone, why our testosterone is down below 300 now when we get back from deployment. Why guys can't sleep. Why guys are gaining weight. Why guys are drinking so hard, why they're depressed, why they have anxiety. Doctors want to throw, the military wants to throw this PTSD diagnosis, but like, I don't even know what PTSD is.
Yeah.
If it's depression, anxiety, okay, yeah, I had PTSD. But it's a brain thing. This is definitely a brain thing. Me, you, maybe you're not feeling it. We have traumatic brain injury, mild traumatic brain injury that may not be seen by other people, but it's affecting us on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And some days we feel good and some days we don't. But again, looking back at the history of events, it's obvious what happened. Like I most likely started seeing some of those things early, and then it just slowly declined. Maybe it took a while. I don't know.
I just want to go through that because I just want people to be able to visualize exactly how close you are, especially as a breacher who's done, give or take 1,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, I commend the ones that I did 1,000. What about the guys that are in there for 25 or 30 years that have done 2,000, 3,000?
Yeah.
What do their brains look like? Or what are they going to look like? or how fast are they going to decline? Explosives happen like, when you see it, like it's done. That's how fast they are, right? It's just like boom, and you see the concussion, you see the smoke, you eat that whole energy.
Yeah. I mean, just for example, like, from my own personal experience, for those of you that have never detonated a bomb or,
which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
too.
it's fun as shit, right? But you can feel like a lot of times you'll feel like your sinuses almost feel like they're clearing out. Your ears, if they're clogged, they feel like they've just been drained. Like,
yeah, our master breacher, I felt terrible for. He's that guy who had 2,000 or 3,000 charges, and we'd do a trip, and he'd bleed from the nose and the mouth and cough up blood, and I'm like, I don't think that's good.
Yeah,
And again. I'm telling you, like, right now what I'm doing is I'm seeing the bag of gold and I'm telling you it's fucking heavy and I don't want to carry it, instead of saying there's a lot of money there and we're going to be rich, right? Like, I loved doing everything I did. Like, don't get me wrong, but there was just some, I loved all of it, but there was a price there's a price that NFL players, when they stop playing at 35, if they're lucky enough to get to 35, like they're jacked up. They're jacked up, but they'll never say they wish they never did that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, on that note, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about civilian transition. And, where did you work? Was it Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley?
I started out at Merrill Lynch. Then I got hired by Fortress Investment Group. And then
I'm sure that was interesting, but
fucking but in Beverly Hills, are you kidding me?
But we'll talk about that after the break.
Right. Now we're going to get into some dynamics with Amber, and I wanted to give you guys kind of like an update of where we are. And so basically, Marcus has taken a position as a BUD/S instructor for a year. He's miserable. He doesn't like it. He feels like a failure because he went to some training about being an additional officer, and he's just lost. He's busted up and not doing well. And what had been the norm prior to Marcus leaving the SEAL teams is that he would go and spend 5 days with Amber and his kids, and then he would be gone, right? So now he's actually coming back home. He's not in a good frame of mind. He's there all the time, and he is in self-destruct mode, like full on. It's bad, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. And you get to hear from Amber in a very detailed account what's happening, right? And it's not Marcus actually telling a story, but it's almost like you're getting a better understanding from her perspective, because she's not used to having her husband home after retirement from the SEALs, and they have to adapt and they have to change, and they don't know how. And first and foremost, her husband is a wreck, an emotional wreck. From, it could be a lot of things, TBI, CTE, breacher, right? Like, plus he's on all different kinds of medications, because he went to the same NICO unit that DJ went to, and has taken 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different types of medications to solve for various different behaviors and problems he's experiencing, and he's just out of his mind. That's what can happen and transform over time. So this is her account. And what I'd like for you to consider when you're listening to her account is she is giving it to you. She is sharing her pain, her experience, her powerlessness, her fear, all of the things that a wife may experience or a husband may experience when dealing with somebody who has the challenges and problems that are extreme, like Marcus. Again, he's not a civilian. So we're giving you an extreme example here of what's happening. All right. So dive in, check it out. I'll see you on the back end of this thing.
I think, you know, my initial conversations with him were like, you really have a drinking problem. Which when you compare yourself to others in the community, you really don't.
Yeah.
But when you compare yourself to typical people, or you go through an alcohol assessment, I think one time I did an alcohol assessment for him. It was some sort of an online tool, and like I answered yes to 20 out of 22 questions or something. It was crazy. Yet he didn't see it. He didn't believe it. So then that caused a lot of conflicts between the two of us, because I was pointing out something that was clearly his numbing coping mechanism, and he wasn't willing to see it. So he moved to LA. He transitioned out of the teams, but before he got out, he went to NICO clinic in Bethesda, and he came back, I think, on 7 or 8 new prescription medications. So he'd gone his entire career with no prescriptions. And as he's leaving the military, he's, you know, got like this bag of new medicines. And I was hoping that that was the answer. I wasn't a fan of medication, but also wasn't a fan of living like I was living. So he gave it a shot and processed out. He was medically retired. We went to LA, and he was in a completely new environment. He wanted to just forget about the SEAL teams. He wanted to pretend like that never happened, didn't want to deal with any of the residual fallout, and just start a completely new life with a completely new career path, and with around a new type of people. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
The drinking was escalating, and I just thought, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. He was gone. The person I met, the larger than life person that I met, was gone, and he had been replaced by like a monster. And so I just thought, I can't live my life like this. I can't be a single parent in California. I wouldn't want to meet and marry someone probably from California. Like, I needed to get to Texas. And so I was able to convince him to give Texas a try, live on a golf course, at least just get out of the state, get out of California.
Yeah.
There was just stability in Texas for me. I felt it was closer to my family. My dad had just taken a coaching job down in Texas, or at Texas. And I just felt like I needed to get there.
So you guys went to Texas. It doesn't sound like things got any better. Sounds
no.
Like they got worse.
Believe it or not, they got worse.
Wow. How long after you moved to Texas did you start looking at alternative medicines?
We got to Texas, and things were actually pretty good for about a year. He was golfing. We joined this country club. He started drinking more, and he started hanging out with a group of people that, you know, drank as much as he did. And so I just didn't want to be in that sort of environment, you know, around this. I wanted to be there for my kids. And that caused a lot of division between the two of us. So he was out, you know, drinking several nights a week, whether it was Bloody Marys with golf in the morning, or happy hour after golf in the afternoon, or just out until 2 a.m. And I just thought, you know, he's either going to drink himself to death, or he's going to wrap his truck around a tree because he would be driving.
Yeah. Damn. So you found the psychedelic treatment, and
So Marcus was primarily diagnosed with PTSD, but that really never fully resonated with me because he absolutely loved his job and he wanted to deploy. Like, he always was happy to come home, but he couldn't wait to get back. And I just felt like he's really not that, caught up in what happened overseas. Yet that was his leading diagnosis. And all of the medications that the military had put him on, the NICO clinic had put him on as he was exiting, that were picked up then by VA healthcare, they were causing so many other symptoms that there was a medication for this symptom and a medication for that symptom. And he was forgetting everything. So he was not able to take his medications correctly, and that would cause a symptom. I just felt instinctively like this is not just PTSD, because I was seeing his cognitive functioning decline to a point of, it was terrifying. I remember watching him try to wrap a Christmas tree with lights, and he couldn't figure out where the ends plugged in and where you start and where you stop. It was pitiful. And he was 40. He got lost driving our daughter to a volleyball carpool that we did 2-3 times a week. He couldn't remember people's names. I found a write-up that he did as he was exiting the military, and it said, I'm frequently forgetting my teammates' names. It just wasn't clicking neurologically. It was something just not right. He was not making connections. And during the height of our struggles, another one of his teammates took his life. And luckily, the brain autopsy was released to the community. And it was the first time that I had heard about blast injury. And I also heard about another degenerative brain disease called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. It's what professional athletes, NFL players, MMA fighters are frequently diagnosed with post-mortem. So you can't find out if you have it until after you're dead. But in my mind, suddenly everything made sense, because Marcus had a history of 15 years of tackle football, 13 years working as a breacher, multiple combat deployments, multiple losses of consciousness, and all of the symptoms fit. So he had the history and he had the symptoms. And I just realized pretty quickly that this could be a death sentence, and time is of the essence. There's not a whole lot of information about it. It's still, very, very new. But I started getting into brain clinics, and I just thought, if this is a brain issue, surely brain clinics will know what to do. And he went to several of the top brain clinics, but he was getting worse. And he was getting worse because he was investing all this time and really wasn't making any sort of significant progress. And he was very frustrated. He was like a loose cannon. I was calling charitable organizations to arrange for him to go away to do a brain center that was in California. But I didn't just want to stop there. I wanted to hit it as many angles as I possibly could. So a couple of other charitable organizations were able to get him into hyperbaric oxygen, magnetic brain stimulation. And so he was doing like 3 things at once. And I went to visit him, and the first 5 days were pretty good, but I was there for a week. The last 2 days, unbelievable. I left thinking I just was hopeless. I went home, and that was in July. He had gone in June. In September, I went back. It was my birthday, so I went to visit him. My mom came and watched the kids, and I went to visit him in California. And we were in his truck on the 5, and I said to him something like, "Oh, babe, you're better than that." And he lost his mind. And he started barreling down the 5, like 100 miles an hour. And I thought, if I live through this, I am going I this is it. And so I didn't say anything else the whole ride. We got back to where he was staying, went to sleep. The next morning, I called an Uber. I went to the airport and I just flew back without even telling him.
Damn.
And my mom was there with our daughter and our son. And I conference called my dad, who was his football coach. And just, my dad's influence in my life of just never quitting and really just being super brave no matter what. I told my dad that I had decided to quit. Like, I just couldn't do this anymore. And I said to my parents, I'm pretty sure Marcus will be dead in 2 years. Like, he needs me. I know he needs me. I know he needs his family. But I started putting, the plans in place to leave him.
Okay, so now we know that Amber's out. She can't do it anymore, right? And what's so incredible about this next section of videos is that she has realized that the way that she has been communicating with Marcus up until this point has been in one way. And she talks about what that one way is. And in the course of like this mini, almost sort of like defeat of saying that she just can't do it anymore, she recognizes and sort of just turns it over to her understanding of higher power. And she's able to actually think about how she has been engaging and communicating with Marcus up until this point, and says, I think I should try something different. And she does. And it's fucking so profound and so incredible that something so simple, like just a different way of communicating to a loved one that you are watching slowly killing themselves. It's just, it made me love Amber even more. She reminds me a lot of DJ Shipley's wife, Patsy, but very different, right? Like, again, she is a civilian. She's never gone to war, and she's elected to be with married to a military person, and she has to embrace these things that most normal people don't. So everybody has to handle extremes, but I think in this case with the military folks, it's just on a completely different level, partly because they don't know why they might be experiencing so much depression and anxiety and PTSD, but it's more than that. It's traumatic brain injury. And what she recommends and what she finds out about ends up being a life-changing and life-altering thing for not only Marcus, but for Amber and Marcus as well, because they end up creating a non-for-profit helping military professionals who have experienced traumatic brain injury and CTE solution to work through all types of challenges, psychedelic solution. And last but not least, I want to make sure that the folks who can't identify with some of the dynamics that's brought up in this podcast, I want you, if you played football on a college level, high school level, like Marcus said, your body keeps score. Right? Your body keeps score. So when you're thinking about, whether or not it's worth taking a personal inventory on, what you may have stuffed for a long period of time, factor those dynamics in. And if they're relevant, give yourself some fucking grace, Anyway, I will see you at the conclusion.
Well, how did you find out about the psychedelics?
So when I had decided, to leave, I was really grappling with the weight of that. I reached out to a couple of the other women who were widows of suicide in the community, fairly recent widows. And it was textbook. The struggles were textbook. The behavior was textbook. And I was just preparing myself for what my life would be like as a widow of suicide. Because I felt like it was inevitable. He was a ticking time bomb. And I reached out to the highest levels of support within the SEAL community and said, I'm going to lose him. And there was nothing. There was no help. Not meaningful. I mean, I think everyone's doing the best they can. But for me at that time, there was really not a lot. And so I'm just a fighter by nature. I didn't want to quit. I never really wanted to quit, but I felt like I had to do that for my kids. And then it hit me, my kids will live with this for the rest of their lives and their kids. And we had this friend, the same one who I mentioned earlier, who had also been in a situation that, this therapy was beneficial. And so he and his wife had reached out to me because they knew Marcus was struggling, and that's just how the community is. Like, just, if someone needs help, just help. And they told me about psychedelic therapy, which was completely foreign to me. I tried to talk to Marcus about it a year prior to him actually receiving it, but he didn't want to hear anything about it. He was like, that's weird. That's crazy. I'm not doing drugs. Like, no, I'm not going to Mexico. No. And that guy was telling me consistently, and he was right. Like, he's got to want this. He's got to be ready for it. He's got to choose this. You can't make him do it. And so he was running out of funding at the brain clinic. I knew that we couldn't afford to live in two separate households. And that meant he really, financially, we needed him to come back. We couldn't afford anything else. But there was peace in my house for the first time in years. And I thought, I just cannot have him back at this house.
Yeah.
I had also really been on my own journey at that time, where I had nothing at that point. It felt Marcus was, I had, well, let me rephrase this.
It sounds like you're just surviving.
Oh, it was 100% just surviving.
Like just straight survival mode.
Yeah, because our teenage son, who during these years, 15, 16, 17, he was chronically ill, but he was also chronically pissed. And he was acting out a lot, which was causing a lot of stress and conflict between Marcus and me, and a lot of division in our household, on top of what was already, so challenging. So between Marcus spiraling and our son spiraling, I just felt so pulled between the two of them. And then Marcus was taking so much time away from work. Really, there wasn't work. So financially, we were devastated. Our son was chronically ill, so I had to step away from my very successful career as a real estate agent to take care of him. Not much else could have gone wrong during those years. And I just thoroughly surrendered to whatever was to come, whatever. I surrendered to my faith. I really dug in. I sat, I cried, I screamed, I journaled, I prayed, I spoke, I declared, I just completely submitted to what was happening, because I really, even though I love solving problems, this was way too big for me.
No.
And the more I submitted, the more things spiraled out of control, but the more peace I had internally. And I came to just all of these amazing realizations during this time. I wouldn't trade that time. Like sitting here today, I wouldn't trade that time. It has given me so much perspective, wisdom, so much strength and purpose. During that time, I'm sitting with, all right, God, if this is where we're going, like this is the end of the road, then I completely trust that. And I just felt like, no, there's more. There's more. And I remember the therapy that our friend had told us about. And I thought, what if I just approach him in a completely different way? I felt like my heart was supernaturally changed, and I was able to see him through eyes of grace. I would have never been able to do on my own. I saw him for the struggles that he was facing, and I realized that no one wanted to be different more than him. And I became so full of compassion for him, whether his struggles were psychological, physiological, spiritual, and manifesting in the form of, alcohol abuse. I just approached him completely different. So he came home. He said, what do you want me to do? I can't stay here. And I said, you can come home. But when you get home, I want to have a serious talk. And so he got home, and I sat him down, and I just said, listen, I will fight for you every day for the rest of your life, but you've got to fight with me. And I will never leave your side. I just stopped shaming him, guilting him, threatening him, all of these things that I had done for so many years that weren't working. It was just perpetuating bad behavior. I just came alongside him and met him where he was at, not where I wanted him to be. I was just standing in the middle of a road saying, get to me, get to me, and I'm going to shame you and threaten you the whole way here. And he was stuck. He wasn't coming. So I just met him where he was at. And he agreed to go. He agreed to go to Mexico. And I had no idea if this would be, if anything, it was for me to know that I had tried everything.
So you were pretty skeptical.
I was probably less skeptical because I just trusted this one other SEAL. And I thought we have nothing to lose. So even if it buys us a little bit more time, because I was way more comfortable with a Western approach. Like, where's the lab coat? Where's the stethoscope? Where's the prescription pad? If you can't, bring my husband into your office and he sits in a waiting room and then gets better, then it can't work. So I trusted this one other SEAL, and I trusted God. And I just went for it.
So we went down there.
Yeah. I think our entire, everyone felt it in our household. I remember one time our son called and said, Mom, are you home? And I said, no, I'm not. Why? He goes, I need to borrow a shirt from Dad, but your bedroom door's closed, your bathroom door's closed, and even your closet door's closed. He goes, I'm afraid to open it. I don't want to find him hanging.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. But we could feel it. It was palpable.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And there are a
tough.
lot of kids living like that. You know, the SEAL community does a lot for the children. But we could definitely do more, because there are a lot of kids who've lost dads, but they live with them. They see them every day. They still have a heartbeat. And, they've lost their dads too, because they're living with a shell of a human.
Yeah.
Defeated.
In 2017, I hit a breaking point. Time was running out. I didn't have much time left. I had thought about suicide at that time, because it seemed like I wasn't getting along with my wife, wasn't getting along with my kids, and I didn't see any hope. And thank goodness, behind the scenes, Amber found a doctor.
I heard about this treatment from a dear friend of ours. I knew that it worked for someone that we loved and respected, and he felt like Marcus would benefit from it as well.
When I first was told about doing psychedelic assisted therapy, I didn't even know what that meant. And I remember saying, when I was walking out the door, I remember saying, don't think I'm gonna come back after this weekend like a new person, because that's crazy. And man, was I wrong.
All right, sports fans, I'm sorry for this phone edit, but what I wanted to point out, as we can see by the end of this video, that, Marcus and Amber, worked through some incredible challenges and pushed through the other side in ways that they never dreamed possible. And now they're helping, I think, 350 other people do the same exact thing that Marcus did, and didn't believe could actually save him, for other people, right? Like, how awesome is that? So, in circling back around, you have now two examples, DJ Shipley and Marcus Capone, as extreme examples of folks who are willing to express their emotional pain. In this case with Marcus, we heard just about all of it from Amber, but that's okay. And because of their traumatic brain injuries and being more susceptible to CTE, it makes their scenarios much more complicated and harder. Now, if you're a football player, professional football player, these types of stories may sound and feel familiar. And if that's the case, I get it. But most civilians aren't going to experience this extreme level of traumatic brain injury just because they're not around C4 explosives and IEDs going off and breacher charges. And, it's an example of what you and I don't have to go through, which we should be grateful for, right? Like, it's one less thing that we have to worry about. And I love that. And it also helps me understand that if they can do it with the extra extremities associated with it, I can do it. You know what I mean? You can do it. Anybody can do it. It's not unachievable. The other areas that I wanted to point out too, as were mentioned not only in this video, but in the one with DJ, the concept of community. Retired Navy SEALs have a big community of retired military Navy SEALs that they lean on, and their wives lean on, right? Like, I even think that Patsy reached out to Amber. That's how I heard about Amber, right? And that's how I got this information for this specific podcast. So, community support, there's nothing wrong with community support, right? And it's nothing wrong to, ask for help. And if you have a community, you might be more open to do that. And I want to create a community where, if we're struggling with anything, like, let's talk about it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm thinking is also important to understand. We typically identify more with pain than we do with success, right? And this is a painful story because I could really feel how destroyed Amber was. And through this adversity that she faced, with the help of her higher power and accepting that she was, sort of powerless over what could go on with Marcus, she tried something different. And I might argue that a lot of what happened to Marcus could have been divinely inspired. And there's nothing wrong with that. So community, pain, and I did just mention that. But I think that that's all I wanted to end on, is that these are extreme examples, and we'll go from there. So please consider joining our male-only Discord server, and the links are in the description below. And I'm grateful that all of you have hopefully stuck around and listened to this whole thing. And that's it. I'm exhausted. I'll see you on the next one. I'll see you in there.